Hey guys, it's Keith Schillen, the executive producer of the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. You're about to listen to our brand new show called Shooting the Shit. It is hosted by the great Riley Kontek. It's a really, really good show. The only thing we want to say beforehand, we want to give a little warning. There is profanity between him and the guests, and we expect it to be that way for all future shows. So we want to give you a warning. Make sure you listen with the right, proper company. And, if someone's going to be offended by it, you might want to listen later on. Here's the episode.
Good evening, friends, and here is the first ever episode of Shootin' the Shit here on the Loudmouth MMA Network. I am your host, Riley Kontek. You may know me from other shows, specifically on Monday. This show is going to be a little bit more off the chart. Just give you a little update because, this is the first show. This show, we don't want to be too focused on MMA. We want to talk about everyday life. Fighters are more than just fighters. So we're going to talk to them about things in their life and, things that go on with them as fighters. And then the last 10 minutes, we'll talk about what's going on in MMA right now. So we'll try to keep this under 30 minutes. My first guest today, and of course I've written a joke, which is probably going to fall on deaf ears. But my first guest, I'm really excited. She is a women's MMA pioneer, a former Invicta women's champion, a UFC veteran. I tried having Barb Honchak on the show. She couldn't be here tonight, so instead we have Tonya Evinger. Tonya, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
It's good to hear. Obviously, that's just a joke. Tonya, I've been following your career for a long time. You're a great fighter. You're a great personality too. And I actually met you a couple times at the Invicta events. We've shared a few drinks and a few laughs. Might look a little different. I used to have a red beard. I shaved it off this week. But it was just funny because you used to tell people I was your cousin. After the fights, we'd be drinking at the hotel. You'd be telling people I was your cousin. And, it was funny. And we'd have a few drinks. So, and this is kind of the interesting thing with, I was trying to talk to you about this before, obviously after fights, you were bound to have a few drinks, but as a fighter, and this is something I want to ask a few fighters, like during a fight camp, when you're building up to a fight camp, what is the situation with drinking and partying? Do you put it off until the fight's over and then just go wild afterwards, or do you not care? You can balance partying and training and before a fight.
Well, for me, I can't make weight if I'm partying, so I absolutely still go to the bar, but it's usually me being the DD at this point. But there's no way I could make weight if I was drinking.
That's really interesting to hear because as we kind of talked a little bit before the recording started. There's two sides of this coin. There's some fighters who, like you, absolutely will not drink at all, but there's also fighters that drink throughout camp just like it's normal. The two that I'm going to say, I know Chuck Liddell, who's a legendary.
Oh yeah,
he was a guy that I don't think gave a shit at all and drank.
Dude, I used to be at clubs. We'd be out of town for a UFC event or something, and I'd be at a club, and his ass would be there drinking, and he's fighting the next day, like the main event. I'm like, what the fuck, Chuck?
Yeah,
he'd have like a drink in each hand. I'm like, you're so crazy.
Yeah, he clearly didn't give a shit, and I guess if you're that good, I guess he was at the top of the world for a few years there. But then I always think of, and this is kind of the opposite side of the coin, Cody McKenzie. If you remember Cody McKenzie, the king of the guillotine joke, he, I think, used to drink up until the day before weigh-ins. And he said, I like to get blackout drunk before the weigh-ins because it helped me lose the extra few pounds going into the weight cut, which I thought was a little interesting. But, I always weigh less after a good weekend of drinking, so maybe he's right.
Yeah, it's probably just going right through him, and then he's getting dehydrated. But I cut a lot more weight, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends. He's fought in a few weight classes, and also he wasn't the most successful fighter, so maybe that was maybe that backfired a little bit.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting. So, like afterwards, in terms of your partying and your drinking, the minute the fight's over, is it just like you get to the locker room and you just start popping bottles, or how does that work?
Man, I usually can't, like, I ain't even trying to drink any alcohol afterwards, and usually, like, I'm sick for, like, an hour or two, and then the rest of the night I won't be feeling good. But, smoking, I'll smoke.
Oh, there you
Like,
go.
right after, sometimes during the Invicta fights, all my friends would be there, and my cornerman, everybody smoked, so they'd be like, hey, before you go to the interviews, let's go out and smoke this blunt. And I'm like, all right, and I haven't smoked the whole camp. I'll quit smoking too.
Right.
And then I go out there and smoke, and I'm so stoned for my interview. I remember Invicta interviews, I didn't know what the hell. They'd have us there till like 1 a.m. doing interviews, and I didn't even know what I was saying, or I don't know. But that's like pretty much it. I usually don't drink for a day or so. I just don't feel right.
Yeah, I was going to
Makes
say,
me stop.
the time I had a few drinks with you, you were not on the card. You were just there, I think, as a guest. So you were there at
Yeah,
the
and that's
bar.
probably why I don't remember all that time.
Listen, I was not in the mood or not in the right state of mind myself. So
Yeah.
I got to the bar and I was putting the belts on, and yeah, I was out of control. But
Yeah.
that is kind of funny you say that. I'm not going to name any names, but I went to one of the earlier Invicta events in Iowa. And I had the hotel at the Fighters Hotel, and I'm checking in, and I walk past the hallway to get to my room, and the door is cracked open, and I see 3 or 4 cornermen with the fighter in like a big, like that 70s show doobie circle, and they were
Yeah.
just going to town. You could smell it in the hallway, and I'm just like, how are they getting away with this, you know? So, how do you get away with that? Because I would assume the UFC doesn't have, as strict. They would probably have the strictest drug protocol, whereas
No,
Invicta probably
UFC doesn't give a shit about weed. That's the main thing. Everything else, performance enhancing, yeah, you're gonna get it, but
Sure.
weed, they don't give a shit about. And that was the difference. Like in smaller promotions, they would test you, and then you're based off of the commission's test instead of like USADA or something. So, I mean, you see, like, people getting suspended. Like, I think Jessica I got suspended in Texas for having, like, traces or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just bullshit. But, I think if USADA okays it and says it's fine, I really don't see. It's not performance enhancing. I just don't understand.
Is the
People are
issue?
getting high right before they fight.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is the
That's
issue? Do you think that there is a pain killing kind of remedy to it? Because that's kind of what I feel like some people have said, that using weed is kind of like a painkiller, like not like you're taking like opium or anything.
I
Like
remember
that,
when they said that about Nick when he went and fought in Japan and won. Dude, bullshit. I don't give a shit who you are. I think it sucks. I'm not the one that can like smoke and go in and train.
Yeah.
I can't go in and spar. I'm slow. I'm like, good God. I'm like, holy shit. Why did I smoke? Today's like everybody showed up for sparring all of a sudden. Or like I go in there, everybody's like, yeah, let's smoke before we grapple. We'll get like all these ideas and like start flowing and shit. And I'm like, dude, I'm total dipshit when I smoke. So
Just doesn't help at all.
yeah, no, not at
Yeah.
all. So I mean, I'm just I don't know.
And it's weird because, like, you don't really hear much about people getting popped for hard drugs either. I think the only one I can remember is cocaine and John Jones, and that's basically the extent of it. I haven't heard anything further than that.
I don't think they really give a shit what you're doing outside of performance enhancing drugs, as long as it ain't within the fight week or the fight. Like, I guess I guess what it starts is like the night. I guess at weigh-ins maybe is
Yeah.
when our time starts, and then our last drug test after we're done with the fight or whatever. That's our time period that we have to have. Certain things have to be like legit and in line and on point. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't really think they give a shit if you're doing like, your little party drugs here and there.
Yeah, I was always thinking it'd be funny if someone like got disqualified from a win if they like got caught for like mushrooms or something. Be like, is that
Right?
is that really gonna help
Get a
him at
little
all?
too many mushrooms this camp.
Like, yeah, you'd think he was fighting like a dragon or something,
Yeah. I remember fighting out in California back in like 2004, 2005, and we would go down to Mexico right over the border to Tijuana and fight a bunch of our guys. So we would drive down there at San Diego, and then we'd all like drive over and walk across the border, and all these guys would fight and shit. Man, those dudes would be like, this was back in the day. They'd take ecstasy and all kinds of
God.
shit. They'd be fighting on ecstasy. I'm like, what the hell? Like,
Yeah, that's
y'all are not. You guys are literally just going down here to have fun and try new shit out, because you ain't taking this serious. But half the time they wouldn't even get paid. Like,
oh yeah,
they would really get fucked over down there. So
oh yeah, that sounds, if you're talking like Tijuana, that sounds
yeah,
shady.
yeah,
It sounds
it
shady
was
in the
shady.
first place. Yeah, for
Yeah, it
sure.
was shady.
So moving on from the drinking and the drugs, because I mean, we could talk about. I'm sure we could have 2 full shows of that. I hate to talk about it, but I'm always interested, especially in what professional athletes do during this time. I know if I was an amateur athlete for many years, but I was never a pro, but I still kind of kept with the lifestyle. COVID-19, and I don't want to talk about very long. I just want to kind of get your idea of what's going on. How has that affected what your daily regiment is? I mean, obviously a lot of, I think all gyms are closed. I know that my gym is closed. How has it affected kind of your daily training routine? How has it affected what you do on the weekends, what you do after you leave the gym? Like, what have you been up to?
Man, I just been working. I literally got a hold of the coaches. I just moved to St. Louis, 2 months ago, literally right before all this shit happened.
Oh, yeah.
And I get a hold of the coaches and I say, hey, I want to come in. Obviously, it was right before the shutdown. I was like, hey, I want to come in as soon as this crap's over with. And I thought it was going to be like a week or 2. And here we are.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, man. I'm not such a believer in everything that's going on. So, I call bullshit on a lot of stuff. Obviously, I think there's a virus, but do I think it's pandemic now? Do I think all this crazy stuff now? So I would absolutely go to the gym right now, and it's not open. Sucks.
Right.
And then the fighting. I mean, I wanted to fight this summer, but I just think that with all the fights backed up in the fighters, and I don't know what everybody's gonna do. If are they just gonna try to put them fighters forward, or are they gonna just kind of trash everything they had the plans wise and start making cards from scratch again, or what's going on? So
right. And hey, listen, you're not the only one. I get a lot of shit for saying a lot of stuff about what's going on right now. I think a lot of it's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get super into it because I promised the overlords at Loudmouth MMA I wouldn't talk politics, religion, all this other shit. So I'm gonna keep to my plans, but it's bullshit. I've had to find ways to try and stay in shape, and it's.
Well, I'm like, I moved to St. Louis. Me and my girl, I gotta look, in shape.
Yeah.
Summer's coming. We're trying to pull some hot bitches, and so I'm like, I gotta really get my game together. I got the personality and shit, but the looks is where I'm lacking. So I got to be in good shape. So then I don't know. I can't even work out when I get here, and I don't know. I'm not a runner.
It's bad. Me neither. No, listen, I played sports my whole life. It's amazing how much I hate running for how many sports I actually run.
Yeah, and me too. It's like
basketball.
They're like, how are you in track? I'm like, I do all field events.
Right. No, I know. It's, I have the same thing. First off, I don't have a beach body, but I would like to look as decent as possible. And still being a 5, maybe a 6 on a good day with a with a 7 personality and a 4 belly, I think I'd be okay. But now it's like a 3-2 belly. My personality's still okay, but I'm a little more hyper because I'm stuck indoors. So I'm really fucked if this summer can continue.
And you shaved your beard, so
dude, I look like a child right now. It's horrible.
You look like a whole new person.
Well, we don't show video on the other podcast, but I had a gunslinger mustache before this because I got bored and I just started shaving shit into my face. So I kind of looked like a half fruity, like Doc Holliday. So
yeah, when you shaved off, you should have went through all these different dudes like the girls do with their hair.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have worked.
They're gonna shave their heads, so they want to do every dyke cut they can do before they
like the Britney
before
Spears,
they shave it clean off.
The Britney Spears in her don't know what I'm doing anymore face.
Yeah. The undercut, the mohawk, everything. They got to do every dyke cut out there.
Yeah, I have a dyke cut myself, but I'm a dude, so I think I'm okay.
Yours is only waist down though.
Yeah, let's go with that. So anyways, we'll get away from the COVID-19 because nothing makes me want to throw punches at people who just listen to the news too much than that. So I guess a big question is, and I think you kind of answered it. I wasn't trying to get an exclusive today, but I was going to ask, but I think you kind of answered it. Are you still a professional MMA fighter? Are you still going to be active?
I'm sure a lot of people want me to quit. They're tired of watching me, and they all think I suck after the last 2 fights. But man, I just got my leg. Like, people don't understand how bad an injury I had, and it's coming back. It was a fucked position I was in. Like, I either don't fight and recover more, and then don't make money that whole time because I obviously wasn't working during that time. I had my leg in a straight brace. I had fucking rough. It was rough.
So for the viewers that don't know, what was the exact injury?
I just got my leg broken in half. So I tore my ACL, MCL, LCL. blew my meniscus, and broke my tibia in half.
Oh, wow. And was that
so the dude literally broke my leg in half, and I landed on my own ankle on my hip.
How did that happen?
Broke in half. Just some dumb shit in the gym, and I fired my coaches over this shit. It shouldn't happen, and he had me pinned up against. He was just too big, and it was like an ego thing or something. I don't know. He like just broke my body in half, had me pinned up against cage, locked my leg, and just literally broke me over on my own leg. It was the craziest shit ever.
That's pretty fucked up.
But it hurt. So I think like I was in a fucked up place where I hadn't worked, and I wanted to fight, but I wasn't there, but I don't have no choices. So UFC says, 6 months after my second surgery, they're like, hey, we got this fight. I can't turn it. How can you turn it down? What have I been doing for the whole year trying to heal from this injury? I can't turn shit down. And then, I also don't believe that if, you say no to the UFC, they don't just, there's one fight off your contract, who knows? So you see them do whatever they want. And I wasn't trying to burn any bridges. I was just trying to fight as much as possible, whoever I could fight. And I lost 2 really stupid fights, and, it is what it is. But hopefully I'll get it back and I'll go on and do better things. But my leg is way better. That's
good. Well, it's good to hear that you've recovered. That sucks. And I wasn't even going to bring this up, but now I'm kind of interested. And if you don't want to answer, I totally understand. This was a question I was actually going to save for a later podcast with Ashley Evans Smith. What are your thoughts? And again, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. What are your thoughts about, and this is kind of in the past too, the Fallon Fox incident of a transgender woman fighting in MMA? Obviously born a man, has, as Joe Rogan said, a man's structure, bone density, etc. Do you think that's okay? Would you take a fight knowing that if they were a professional fighter that was professionally trained? I think you're a little crazy, so you might do it.
I would definitely do it.
Would you really?
Well, they offered me, and then they offered me 500 show, 500 win, and I said, go suck one, because that's fucking crazy. First of all, it's a dude, and I know Fallon. I don't think Fallon likes me just for things that I've said, but I just am a believer. I'm not against anybody sexual orientation or whatever they want to do with their life, but I think when you're at that level and you grow up as a man and you form your bones and your muscles and all that, and you reach a certain age, that you can't take that back. I don't care if you get a sex change or not, you can't take that back.
Right, because they went through puberty.
And then people are like, well, if girls transition to boys should be able to play girl sports if girls can come in to play boy sports. Well, boys are a little bit of step ahead on every sport. They're faster, they're stronger. It's just a fact of life. That's why boys don't play girl sports. But if a girl can compete with the boys, why not? But the boys coming down, it's like going down and playing against a bunch of girls, like, come on.
It was like when Annika
and then how shady they were about not her manager. First of all, what a piece of shit to go and promote him like, hey, this is a new chick she's knocking bitches out and shit.
Right.
But after all that stuff, and Ashley fought her down in Florida or whatever it was and won that fight, which I think Florida's a bunch of pussies for commissioners for letting that happen. They should have stopped it. That they lied. I mean, they lied to even get on the card.
Well, the promoter let it go too. So
I just think what a bunch of bitches, dude.
Yeah.
So I think that she did really good, but to go and win that, and then turn around and like try to get this girl Fallon to like fight all these girls, and they're offering $500 a pop, and then they're hitting people that I know don't have any choice. They want to fight, but they go take that fight, and then it's like a career ender for $500. Dude, get out of here.
Yeah, I know
I'll fight that dude, but I want money.
Yeah, I know. I know she had cracked somebody's skull, and I was pretty. And actually, I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons I got fired from Bleacher Report is because I refused to put her in him in the whatever in the women's rankings, and I'm like, how am I the only one that thinks it's fucked up on the website? And every guy's giving me shit, and I'm just like, dude, like. You guys preach protect women, and then a guy who transitioned fought a woman, and I called it out for saying it's bullshit because I don't want to see women get hurt by people that are physically imposing, and I'm the asshole. And
during the time that you're saying that you like letting people think that you're just a woman with the same kind of build as all the other women. I'm not against anything, but that's fucked up.
I think that's the biggest problem is it wasn't disclosed after I think the first 2 fights. And that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. If you're mad here's the thing, and this may not be the most politically correct. If you're mad at dudes that fight on steroids, you have to be mad when somebody doesn't disclose that they were formerly a man, because it's not steroids, but again, their body structure is just different.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at her. I mean, just the
Yeah.
jawline is. I mean, everyone's got a manlier jaw than I do, but
Yeah.
it's more manly than the people you're fighting. So, I can't wait to ask Ashley that question when she comes on the show. Just to transition real quick before we talk about UFC 249, then I'll let you go have your tacos and all that good stuff. Side jobs in MMA. It's been a topic that's kind of been hot and cold, but it was brought up recently. A lot of fighters do have side jobs. I believe you've had a side job. If I'm not mistaken, most of your career, if not all of it. So can you just kind of talk about having a side job and also being a full-time MMA fighter?
Yeah, I mean, I just sell sex, but like sex skills. So I just sell those, but no.
I'll Venmo you $10.
I've done construction forever. So because it's one of those jobs you can come and go. And if you need to take 6 weeks off for training camp or 8 weeks off, you can do it. If I need to get off early or whatnot, I can, you know what I mean? It's one of those jobs where they're not as strict on you. So, I've always done that, but my last camp, when I fought in Sweden, against what's her name? Can't remember her name. Yeah, her. So I was working in the oil field, and I only got 4 weeks off. I had to take a hitch off. So I got my 2 weeks off, and then I took the next hitch off, which was 2 weeks of work. And so I got 4 weeks to train for that fight, and I cut 35 pounds.
Oh, wow.
So the whole, training camp was cutting weight. Like I couldn't have a single workout where I wasn't wearing a sauna suit. So I was never getting a really good workout. I was dying pretty much, So it's just one of those things where just shitty situations. And, it's a great job and stuff, but at the end of the day, I sacrificed, time to train and time to prepare that I needed to, so.
Yeah. Now, do you think that fighters who, I guess for lack of a better word, complain about fighters having to have these two different lives of going to your 9 to 5 and then training, do you think they have a plausible complaint there? I know, and I'm not going to blast any fighters by name, but a lot of them are like, why should we be having to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet? What do you think about the fighters that say things like that?
Well, this ain't just like a normal career. It ain't like, hey, I think I want to be an athlete for my career, or or like a accountant or something. It ain't like a normal job. You have to be elite to be a high level athlete getting paid. So that's not everybody. Everybody can go work at fucking McDonald's. Everybody can't be a professional athlete. So I think the time you put in, whether it be, MMA or football or whatever your sport is, you put that time in, you know what I mean? Everybody puts that time in and that sacrifice in to get where they want to be. I just, a bunch of whiny bitches is what I think we're talking about, right?
I don't disagree.
I mean, I wish I had sponsors and shit to pay me and I could not work and just go work out. That'd make life great, but it just is not that way. And, lucky for people that have that. I know a bunch of guys that their parents have quite a bit of money and they've never had to pay for shit. They get to travel all over the country, all over the world, train with the best guys and just fight. And I'm like, man, what a lucky ass dude.
Right.
But he probably ain't fucking talented enough to be a world champion. So,
right.
He just got lucky. But
no, I'm not. And again, I'm not going to name any names. Listen, I name a ton of fighters that I call out, but I'm not going to do it on this show.
I'm not going to name any name, but this motherfucker right here.
Yeah, but there was I think most people can probably figure out who I'm talking about. There was a woman on the UFC roster. She was making, I believe, 30 to show and 30 to win. She was complaining about her pay, and I had just made the question.
But we only fight so I've been only fighting once a year, and if you lose that fight, so then what they take out of that 30K is a certain amount for whatever they take out, and then the taxes they take out on top of that, state taxes come right out, and then you turn around and you pay your manager, and your manager gets paid off of your whole base pay, not off of what was subtracted already. Then you pay your quarterman the same kind of deal. Next thing you know, you just had a fight and you made $8,000 or $5,000 and it took months to get ready, and then you won't fight for months, you know what I mean? Or if at the rest of the year. So it sucks. I mean, it really is shitty if you break it all down that way. But people look at it and they're like, oh, she made $30,000 or she made $60,000. Well, I mean, twice as much if you make $60,000 is gone too. But if I'm only fighting once a year, that ain't very much fucking money. You know what I mean? Especially if I lose a fight.
And the woman in question I'm talking about fought, I think, at least 3 times the 1 year she complained. But she was making 30 show, 30 win. But my question was, and I made this question, and of course all the hysterical MMA media pussies because that's what they are. They're pussies. I used to be one of them, but I wasn't a huge pussy. I was just a kind of a pussy. They said, they said 30 grand a show. I said, what did you draw though? What did you draw in audience? What did you bring that actually warranted you to get we'll say 60, and maybe you get a fight night bonus of 50. Say you do win the fight and you won 60 grand. Did you draw $60,000 worth of eyes? That's the only
It ain't
question.
about that though. It's about the content in total. It's a content in total, and I'm not going to watch the same fighters fight over and over and over. I mean, some people will because they're just will lickers or whatever. They just love UFC or love whatever. But at the end of the day, like, you want to feel that content, and we're the lowest paid. Like, come on, compared to all these other professional sports, and we're beating the shit out of each other. I'm not saying anything. I mean, I will fight for the same amount of money to beat the shit out of somebody else. I don't care. But we definitely don't get paid enough compared to what UFC is making. If they can buy for $4.5 billion, and then a year or two later they're worth $7 billion, get the hell out of here. Like, they paid 13% of their total revenue to the fighters all year. Like, what the fuck? Like, come on, man. We the fighters are your content.
Right.
Whether I bring enough money, enough people to cover my expenses or not. When I fought for Invicta, I sold a shit ton of tickets. I don't know if any of the other girls sold tickets really or anything, but when we fight in Kansas City, it's like my hometown. So I sell a shit ton of tickets just because I want to fill the arena, and people want to come see me, and it is what it is. But do I sell as much tickets as they're paying me in purse? Probably not. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about the people that tune in to watch me, or the people that all this other stuff, and then I sell cards, so I think it works out.
And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think like the profit sharing aspect, where I know there was an Invicta card that I bought tickets for my friend because I had media, but I was staying with him in Kansas City. I said, hey, I'll stay with you. I'll buy your tickets. There was an option that says, who are you coming to see? And there was a drag down menu, and I picked the person that I was in contact with. And I think there's like almost like a profit sharing, like a ticket.
You didn't pick Tonya Evinger?
I was honestly just going to say, I just actually found the press pass, Invicta 14, Tonya Evinger versus Pani Kianzad. I was sitting ringside for that. So I was there. I was at one of your fights. I thought it was just one that you were you just showed up at, and like a tornado. But no,
that was the easy fight because I fought a turd. So
you're not a fan of her?
Well, she just talked a lot of shit before we fought, and we had to do a podcast together one time. I forget who did it, but they wanted us on together. I'm like, this is so stupid. I already know who it was. It was Adam Hunter. So Adam gets us on together, and and then she started talking like, trying to be funny and perverted, and like talking like kind of being a smart ass to me, and I'm like, bitch, shut up. Like, you're not I'm gonna beat you up when we fight. I'm gonna beat you up.
I met Adam in Orange County. He was cool.
Yeah, he's a cool dude.
Yeah,
he's a cool dude.
So just to kind of end that before we go to UFC 249, do you think it's a problem that fighters have side jobs in MMA? Do you think that a lot of people in life have to have two jobs, and then
I think if they don't have side job, they're stupid, because your career for this sport in general is just your window's so small. If you aren't putting all your money into something else, like you're definitely missed the bus, because it's going to end, and then you're going to have nothing. And I feel like now, like, man, when am I going to ever retire? And how do I retire? Do I just like one day be like, I don't want to fight again? I don't think it ever be like that. It'd be like, I don't ever want to train again in my life. You know what I mean? Like that. I can see that happening, or work out again in my life. But to say I don't ever want to fight again, I just can't even imagine having a time where I could actually think that, except for when I'm cutting weight. Every time I cut weight, I'm like, tell my coaches, this is the last fucking time, guys. This is the last time. I hate all y'all. This is the last time. It's like I'm having a baby, and they're the baby daddy, and I'm like going through it. I'm like, we're never ever again doing this.
We're not doing this again until the next time.
You son of a bitches. You tricked me again. So, but then as soon as it's over, I'm like, yeah, let's get another one. So it's just one of those things, but I don't know.
I always just ask because I was a teacher for 5 years, and I had 3 jobs, and That's from a guy who thinks that teachers are overpaid. A lot of teachers are overpaid. So
Yeah.
I'm very in the minor in that, but I was actually a teacher, so I think my opinion matters a little bit more. Just
Yeah.
like I think your opinion matters more with MMA. So
Yeah.
now let's move on to the UFC 249 before we get out of here. I know you had kind of said before you knew some of it, but there was so much moving pieces that you weren't 100% sure what was going on. So let's just go over the main card. I'll give you the main 5 fights. You can kind of tell me, what you think of those fights. If you don't have an opinion, of course, I'll just tell you my opinion, and then we can sign out.
And we'll agree on that, because if I don't know, we'll just go with yours.
All right.
Like what he said. We're cheering for who he said.
I'll be on Twitter like, fucking Tonya agreed with me.
Yeah.
She didn't know what the fuck she was talking
about.
Yeah,
I did.
All right, so the opener on the main card features former NFL star Greg Hardy, who has surprised a lot of people. He actually has won some fights. Taking on Jorgen de Castro.
Is that big black dude?
That dude, yeah, the big black dude who played on the Cowboys and the Carolina Panthers, and
the same dude that beat his wife.
That's what the alleged thing was. We don't have a.
That's the only way I know him.
We don't have a bankroll to say whether he did or not to get sued, but that was the alleged thing that happened. Yes, I think he also he was like John Jones. He liked coke, and then he started fighting. So.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know a bunch about this fight.
The gateway drug to fighting.
Yeah, now I know how John Jones always makes weight. He's always on coke.
Yeah, dude's ahead of the game.
Right. So I don't know if you know a whole lot about Jorgen de Castro. He's got a kickboxing background. I believe he works security at a school. But two very big guys going at it. I don't know if you have an opinion on this fight, but what do you expect to see out of Greg Hardy, Jorgen de Castro?
Well, Greg's really powerful and shit, huh? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know the other dude, to be honest.
Yeah, de Castro, I believe, is coming off a win. He knocked out Justin Tafa, whose brother Junior is in Glory Kickboxing. They're both big guys. Greg Hardy.
Oh, they have a stand-up background, huh?
Yep. And de Castro actually knocked him out. I remember watching that fight. I was half in the
Greg
bag.
doesn't have a wrestling background, huh?
No, Greg has a football background.
Yeah.
But he's 6'5", 265. If I'm not mistaken, he cuts to make 265. So he's a big guy. Obviously, I don't think there's too many guys that are going to be better athletes pure athletes in the octagon than him. Obviously, learning on the job. But I think this will be an interesting fight. I don't think it'll.
Now's the time to learn wrestling for him.
Well, yeah, if you want to stay away from another
you better
kickboxer,
get off your feet.
So I don't know what your thought on it. I'm taking Jorgen de Castro.
Go ahead.
Please go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening to what you say first.
Oh, sure. I'm going to take Jorgen de Castro by knockout. He does have a kickboxing background, and while Hardy's a very good striker for a guy with his level of fighting, you're taking on a guy that's not a career, but who has been doing kickboxing a much longer time.
I agree. Although, anytime we're talking about heavyweights or anything, I'm like, whoever falls on top is going to win.
Yep. Well, and that's the other thing with the guys
that's in wrestling. I'm like, I don't know, but whoever falls on top,
absolutely. And the thing with heavyweights too, especially two heavyweights that are wild, sometimes it's just whoever lands the first shot wins, because they're just such big, powerful guys.
Wrestling was such a weird sport. I would just watch them. I'm like, please get the first takedown. Please fall on top, because they'd all just grab hold of each other and stumble around until somebody fell on each other. And I was like, please land on top.
Well, what's hilarious about this card is for a main card with 5 fights, that has an Olympic gold medalist and Dominic Cruz, who is also a very good wrestler. I don't think a lot of wrestling is going to happen on this card. So we go to the second fight. It's a featherweight bout between Jeremy Stephens, who is one of my absolute favorite fighters of all time. That dude just goes to work, taking on Calvin Kattar, who has really come out of nowhere and just beaten some really good guys. I'm a huge Jeremy Stephens fan, but this I think is a lot closer of a fight than you think.
Where's the other guy out of?
Kattar fights out of Sityodtong, if I'm not mistaken. Team Sityodtong in Boston. He has wins over Ricardo Lamas, who, if you remember, challenged for the UFC featherweight title. Wins over Andre Fili from Team Alpha Male, Shane Burgos, who's a top 15 UFC fighter. So he has some big wins. His only losses come to Renato Moicano, the Brazilian who actually moved up to lightweight recently, and then Zabit Magomed Sharapov, who's probably, in my opinion, the next featherweight champion. So those are the only 2 losses he has in the UFC. Any opinion on this Stephens-Kattar fight?
I'm going with Stephens.
I'm going to take Stephens too, but I'm biased because he is my favorite fighter. He just did get beat by Yair Rodriguez But, I mean, he's another one of those guys. We were just talking about the heavyweights, one punch, one knockout. I think Stevens is one of those guys that has just so much raw power that you can be beating him up, and then he'll just land one big shot, and it's over.
Yeah.
And Qatar will more than likely stand with him because he's another guy that has very good striking himself. He's a little more technical, whereas Stevens is more of a one-punch, one-kill guy.
Yeah.
So,
well, he might just pick him apart.
Yeah,
run and pick.
And it could be a fight of the night contender if it wasn't for the main event, probably. But moving on to the third fight, we got two more after this, the heavyweights. If you don't watch MMA and watch this guy and love him just from what he does, Francis Ngannou is fighting one of my favorite knockouts of all time against Alistair Overeem, taking on Jairzinho Rosenstruck, who actually beat Overeem himself, but he did it in the last round after getting dominated. I mean, do you think this fight goes to a decision, or is this just two guys throwing till one falls?
Yeah, I don't think it'll go to decision.
Who do you got in this one?
Not the second guy. How do you say his name?
You don't like Rosenstruck, you like Ngannou.
Yeah. What's his name? Rosenstruck?
Yeah, Rosenstruck.
Yeah,
Rosenstruck has a kickboxing background.
Maybe it's because I don't know him.
Maybe. He did just beat Overeem, though, so.
Oh, did he? But, yeah, come on. Overeem, for me, seems so up and down. Like,
yeah, he has had.
He's lost some fights that I'm like, what the fuck?
I remember, I agree with you. I think when he was on the juice, he was unstoppable, and then they, started testing him and shit. But, Overeem obviously is one of the
It might just be all in his head. He needs that extra,
steroids, or as he calls it, horse meat.
I remember when they were saying he was eating horse meat. He eats horse meat.
Yeah, I was like, cool. I eat a lot of shit that's not normal, but I don't have, muscles that go out to here, So I'm going to also take Francis Ngannou in this one.
Yeah.
The dude is just way too destructive with his hands. Like I said, his knockout of Overeem himself was probably one of the most disturbing. It was a one-punch uppercut, and I'm surprised Overeem's head didn't end up in the back of the fucking arena. That was bad.
Huh?
Going to the co-main event, we're on the home stretch here. You got Henry Cejudo, the champion of the bantamweight division, taking on late notice the former champion Dom Cruz, who is, as my esteemed colleague Keith Schillen cannot stop saying on our weekly show, has not fought in 3 years. You probably know about these guys. They're both high profile. What do you see in this fight?
I think Henry's going to win. I think that he's just going to get a hold of Dom and slow him down. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Dom's real slick. He hasn't fought in a long time, but that don't really mean shit.
I agree.
I mean, this is the first time I've seen him where he ain't injured. Come on.
Right, I know he's just coming off another major injury, but
yeah, dude gets injured more than anybody. I don't know how he has money. Like, how do you go that long without fighting?
Well, he's a Fox analyst, so I'm sure.
Yeah, that don't
Fox
count.
Money.
He's got that good. He got that good.
Yeah. Do you see Cejudo mostly using his wrestling, or do you think does he mix it up, or does he?
I think Henry's getting real confident in his stand-up, but I don't know, because TJ did so good against Dom. Maybe he thinks that he can strike that well, but I just don't see Henry as that great of a striker compared to Dom.
Yeah,
I think Dom's going to be a little bit more unorthodox, moving around, a little bit slicker, but I don't think he's going to be fast as Henry.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be as powerful as Henry. I think Henry's just going to grab a hold of him and slow him down. Just not because he can't, but I think because he hasn't fought in so long,
Sure. Maybe, and Dom is a lot of his game is contingent on him being super fluid in his movements, and he moves around a lot. He does that ballerina shit with the light feet moving around. But Cejudo, I mean, he's the real deal.
I think Henry's going to pressure in until he gets a hold of him. I think if Dom can keep him running, he might be able to do something and get his hands going and stuff. But I don't think Henry's going to let that. He's going to close in and be. Henry's on that other stuff too. That they can't get in the testing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Cruz is not a one-shot guy. He's the guy that kills you with 1,000 stabs. So it's gonna be tougher with Cejudo, I think, especially with 3 years on the shelf. I'm interested to see it though, because I used to hate Dom Cruz, and I can respect a lot what he does now. So going into our last fights, we have, I believe it's an interim lightweight championship between Tony Turd Ferguson and Justin Gaethje. This was originally supposed to be Khabib's fight, and obviously we had issues with travel and the COVID, and then moving the cards around, and now
the fight's never gonna happen.
Right, and now it's
They're
Ramadan.
just leading this up for years till it's the biggest fight of UFC history, and the bonuses are $60,000.
Right, and it's Ramadan too, so Khabib's fasting, so there's no way he's fighting until Ramadan's over. But you have two guys who are pretty goddamn reckless. Which is why they're great fighters. I think this will be the fight of the night while it lasts. There's some other great. I think Cerrone Pettis will be outstanding. There will be some really good fight. This card is fucking stacked. I have no problem buying it. Yeah. Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje. What are your thoughts on it?
Man, that's a hard one. Tony to me is like one of them people that I watch fight, and I don't know how he gets away with all this shit. Like, dude is like, him and Pettis' fight was badass, dude. Like, they were like two kids out there fucking playing, with a lot of blood. Yeah. But like, goddamn, they just do the stupidest shit to get out of stuff and do stuff. And I feel like Tony's like that. He just does things. He doesn't like, oh shit, I'm not going to roll out of this, somersault out of this fucking takedown because he's going to catch me on the ground. And, he like, it's like he doesn't think about
No, he just fights.
The dangers of what he's doing and how he could get caught or whatever. So he's really like surprising to me. Like, I'm always like, dude, he's gonna get beat this time, and then the dude just, I don't understand it. He just he's whack. I don't know, but Gaethje is a beast.
Yeah,
a beast. This is for him. Like, in my opinion, like, dude, he wins this fight, that's gonna like jump his career. Like, not like he ain't got a career already. Right. He's got a great career, but like, it's gonna, I think, he's come up and down. He's had some up and downs.
Yeah, and the crazy thing was he was originally rumored to fight Conor McGregor at some point. So if that's true,
I heard that too.
He gave up a lot of money to take this fight, so that he must assume that the title will bring him his riches.
Hey, I think him beating this fight though, like, it's gonna be what's gonna get him the Conor fight. I think he's just going for the money. But
if he wins, he gets the Khabib fight.
Here's your big boy step.
Yeah, but if he wins, he gets the Khabib fight because Khabib's the champion, and he would be the interim champ. So, which would be a big money fight too. But everyone knows that Conor's the big money fight. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah.
So are you taking Ferguson or Justin on that one?
Fight. I'm taking. I'm taking Ferguson just because he's so unorthodox. Because I think he can run enough from Justin.
Yeah, I think this is a crapshoot. I'm going to take Ferguson because he's had more notice. I know, Gaethje, when he originally took the fight, was on short notice, and this is still shorter notice than a guy who's had a full fight camp. I'm going to go with Ferguson just because of that reason. But, again, this is one of those fights where, you leave your chin out there 1 second too long, you're looking up at the ceiling and wondering what the fuck just happened.
Yeah, so. I don't think it's short notice or not with Justin. I think that's it. Like, I've had fights like that, too. I'm like, oh, my God, I haven't trained in a whole year. But they're paying me cash money, so let's try to knock this bitch out in the first round.
Yeah, because
that's literally all I got. But I think that's how he fights every round. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
So I think he's got a good chance, whether he's had like a crazy camp or not. The dude's in shape.
Sure, absolutely, and that's another reason why I like Gaethje. I know he trains year round, so he's ready. But I just think Ferguson, he was preparing for Khabib, who is hands down the toughest guy right now. So
he's been preparing for him for years now.
Oh, yeah. No, we've been waiting for years. So
yeah, cancellation after cancellation.
All right, Tonya, I will let you go. I know it's Cinco de Mayo. You got tacos coming. It looks like you were drinking a Corona during the show. Before we let you go, any message for the fans or anywhere they can follow you, anything like that? Go ahead.
Yeah, just my social media. My numbers are still the same, so I'm not losing fans. But yeah, I put funny shit up every once in a while, so just my social media is probably where you're gonna find me. I think I'm looking to fight at Bellator this summer, but maybe it won't be till next summer, I guess.
We'll see, right?
This shit's crazy. But yeah, I'd like to get back at it as soon as possible. So.
Sure, and you're healthy, as you said, and we're happy to hear that. And again, if you guys don't know, especially Twitter, and she hasn't been as active lately, but she's got some funny shit. It's at Tonya
I hate
Evinger.
Social media, and people on there are boring. Every time I'm on the same shit, I don't give a shit about their lives and their crap.
If you want to see
If we just post funny shit, I'd be all right. But everybody posts their personal crap.
I do that and shit on MMA journalists, so that's why my Twitter is halfway decent. So
yeah, I want to hear like shit talking and funny shit, not all this other bullshit. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. So
it's getting old.
All right, Tonya, thank you very much for your time. Again, you were the first ever guest on this podcast. I'm recording next week's episode this week as well, so you have the distinction of being number one on the Shootin' the Shit podcast here on the Loudmouth MMA Network. Make sure you guys check out Loudmouth MMA Network for all the good shows, including the ones that I'm on, where I constantly get last place in the debate shows because I don't give a fuck. So for Tonya Evinger, I'm Riley Kontek for the Loudmouth MMA Network. This has been Shooting the Shit, and go fuck yourselves.
Thanks for having me on.